Good morning,
Good afternoon.
good evening, wherever you are on this amazing, amazing planet of ours. I'm Ariel.
I'm Shia.
Welcome to being here.
Yes.
Today's episode.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Do you remember the old Star Trek series? That was always a difficult thing to beam somebody aboard the Starship Enterprise if they had their phaser shields up.
It couldn't be done. You got to lower your phaser shields in order to be beamed up.
In other words, dropping our defenses in order to communicate, to listen, and to receive what someone has to say to us.
You know, listening is so critical to well-being. See, if you're defended, if you have your phaser shields up, there is no peace because you're on constant guard that somebody's going to do something against you. What if the universe really wants to support you, but your fear of being out of control keeps you from relaxing into the moment and allowing life to supply you with everything you need in the current moment? Because you know it does. In this current moment, you're not starving for oxygen. The air is there. You know, in this current moment, if you're listening to this podcast, I'll come.
We do finish each other's sentences.
Yes. You know, if you're listening to this podcast, you have the opportunity to discover how, actually, it isn't a how-to discover your ability to experience living newly so that you're actually here in your life in this moment, rather than thinking about a future that hasn't gotten here or a past that's already so far gone by that you can do absolutely nothing about it. But most of our lives are spent worrying about a future or complaining about a past rather than living your life directly in this moment. Now, the interesting thing is, if you truly listen and allow yourself to hear what another says rather than pass it through your system of judgments, you'll get pulled into the current moment of your life. And that's where your life is taking place, unless you're worrying about a future, and then you're not here for this moment.
You know, as you're talking about worrying about a future, I realize that if you're worrying about the future or you're rehashing the past, you're generally defending a point of view.
Mm-hmm. You're right about something.
You're being right about something. And if we're talking about lowering your phaser shields, it's about allowing yourself to not have to defend yourself, which, by the way,
allowing yourself to be vulnerable to life.
Yes.
That's a remarkable state of being that is rarely, if ever, achieved, because we're so driven to get what we think we want or need. You know, it's interesting. I was listening to somebody on a podcast that showed up as an advertisement in the news that I was listening to this morning. And he was talking about the Silva mind control method that existed in the 90s. Jose Silva was a teacher, and he taught his kids how to manipulate themselves to learn better. And it became a system that was popular in the 70s and 80s. I remember it vaguely, hearing about it, never having done it. But it was about controlling how your mind worked so you could get what you wanted. The only problem with getting what you want has been conditioned by the culture you grew up in. And so when you get what you want, it's never enough. Have you noticed that? If you set yourself a goal to get somewhere and you got there, it was exciting for a moment, and then it was over. And now you're on to the next goal. See, if you slow down enough to get into the current moment of your life, life becomes fulfilling and satisfying. But if you're not satisfied, Nothing satisfies. It's about being satisfied in the moment. That allows satisfaction with any circumstance, even the ones that aren't preferred, like driving behind a slow driver.
Is that what you did today?
That's what I did today. But I realized that that slow driver was actually setting me up to have my universe be in sync. So I was slowing down enough to be there. And then as soon as I realized that, they pulled out of the way.
That's very sweet. Shall we take our first guest?
Yes.
All right. Ephraim, welcome to being here. Tell people where you're zooming in from today.
Hi, this is Ephraim, and I'm zooming in from River Falls, Wisconsin.
Are you on vacation with your family, or are you
I
away?
am.
Nice.
Yeah, my mom is the oldest of 8, and she grew up in Massachusetts, but when she went to college, her whole family moved out to the Twin Cities. And since then, they've always had this little farmhouse in Wisconsin that we all go to.
Oh, sweet.
Lovely. Well, thanks for taking time out of your vacation to be here with us.
Thank you. It's just such a pleasure.
Excellent. Did you have a question for today?
Well, I read the description and of the episode and about dropping your defenses, and I just thought about my last time in Costa Rica with you guys. I feel like I noticed just how quickly my defenses go up. So it just
Can I stop you there? If you can notice how quickly your defenses go up, you can relax. See, it's when you don't realize that your defenses have come up that you stay defended. But if you see it, you then get a choice in the matter of your life. You can either remain defended or intentionally, I usually say take a breath, intentionally take a breath, relax, and listen to what somebody has to say rather than defend a point of view that may not even be yours initially, that you absorbed as a reality.
I love that. Yeah, I guess what's interesting to me is how quickly I perceive something as a threat, because I was with you guys. Mm-hmm. And I was, in such an amazing environment, and I heard something a certain way and immediately, got scared or something. But I love that.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because there's a high likelihood that you're personalizing your defended nature, rather than recognizing that it not only comes along with the enculturation, but it's also likely something that is slid down
in your genetics.
We did mention each other sense.
Yes, we did. The thing is this, there's been studies where they've taken mice and put them on an electrified field, and they'd introduce the smell of cherry blossoms.
Or cherries, I guess.
Or cherries, whatever, a smell that's really strong.
Cherry smell.
The cherry smell. And then they'd electrify that field so that mice were caused pain in that field of cherry olfactory smell. And interestingly enough, the offspring of those mice who had never been on an electrified field, when the smell of cherries showed up, they got real nervous and excited.
And they found that.
And then they, what do they call that? Another group,
the control group.
In the control group, that didn't happen.
And they found that the cherry smell affected the offspring for 2 generations.
Wow.
So what if in our family lines, we had family members that had to be cautious so that we weren't
survive,
exterminated, or we weren't ostracized, or they had
or persecuted?
So they had survival skills that have been passed down to you.
And so it's completely reasonable for some event in your environment to trigger a survival mechanism that has been passed down through generations, and you personalize it. You think, oh, I got scared.
You think I got defensive rather than, oh, look, that defense mechanism
Has
got
triggered.
activated.
Yeah.
Nice.
What if it's not you at all? It's just an automatic protectiveness that the moment you notice 3 principles, anything you resist, you reinforced. Secondly, you can only be exactly as you are. Third, anything you see without judging disappears in an instant. So if you see it without judging, oh, look, defense, you're already back.
And you see, you can't do it as a manipulation to get better, but you can allow yourself to experience what shows up just because you allow yourself to experience it, not for an outcome. The outcome is transformation. The outcome is always transformation when you're there for your life.
You know, this is the perfect time for you too, Ephraim, because here you are on vacation with your family. And of all the people in the world, families are the people we have the most history with, and they're closest in our genetic links. So in general, most people get more triggered by family members than they do by anybody else.
Interestingly enough, the phone works both ways. And if you're well in yourself, they can experience well-being.
Just by being around you.
That's right.
Nice. Well, the other side of it is, yeah, how much I've noticed that how quickly my daughter's defenses go up as soon as I have something that I want to, talk to her about. Or my daughter Nico is 8 years old, and I guess I feel like I have to when I talk to her, I have to make sure she lets me know if I have energy in my tone of voice, and I have to start over if she's perceiving any kind of reprimand, or because yeah, she goes off to some other place as soon as it's not what she wants to do.
You're looking at that through a very narrow filter or focus. You're looking at that through a telescopic lens rather than a wide angle lens. So you've got an idea of why, and I have other ideas of why. Not having met Nico in years, because I mean, I may have seen her on a Zoom call for a moment or two, but it's got not to do with Nico. It's got to do with a familial environment that includes your wife. And look, there is a tendency in families to collude, to form alliances and allegiances with somebody that they're against. Now, you have a wife and a daughter. Chances are they're against the man in the family because he's different. That would be you.
Except for when it's convenient, then they're against the mom in the family, because kids are really tricky critters. They know how to work both sides. And from your grin, even though people who are listening can't see you, I know that's probably she works both sides.
She's surprisingly nimble at that skill. Yeah.
Yes. So, see, here's the problem. We find a reason why things are the way they are based on our limited knowledge. So through what we know or believe to be true, we come to conclusions about why things are the way they are. But there could be outside circumstances that are not in your knowledge base, so you never even include that as a possibility. I'm looking for an example, and I'm not sure I have one. But if I'm I had what was called psoriatic arthritis. And for years, I was taking a couple of very powerful drugs to suppress my immune system, because there was something going on where my immune system was working against me and I was in pain, very severe pain for a long time. And so they put me on these medications and they controlled that pain. And I was on that medication for about 7 years. About 2.5, 3 months ago, I got a urinary tract thing that put me in the hospital for a day. And the medications they gave me in the hospital destroyed my internal flora in my gut. And so I was on all kinds of antibiotics for almost a month straight.
Which required him to stop his heavy anti-inflammatory drugs for psoriatic arthritis.
Right,
Yes.
right. So in any event, I've been off these drugs now for almost 2.5 months, and I have no pain. So what they thought was causing it might not be what was causing it. It could have been something entirely different that they didn't have a clue about. But they treated it with what they knew. Now, it kept me out of pain, but it was a very powerful immune suppressant, so I could get sick from all kinds of things.
So I'm a little, I want to make sure I'm following you, Shia. So
So
how does this relate?
how it relates
to-
is that the doctors thought they knew what the cause was, but it might have been something entirely different, like a deficiency in my internal gut flora.
But how does this relate to
Well,
what
Well, he thinks he knows why Nico
gets defended?
gets defended with him. And it may be your tone of voice, but it may also be that she's overheard things that her mom has said to other women.
Well, and there may be something else. Just, I think it's lovely that you're doing your best to be a kind and attentive father. But there was something I learned early on in seminars, back when we, early, like in the 80s, when we were doing some recordings on cassette tapes. That's how old it was. And Shai and I were in a seminar, and he said something, and I thought, whew, that's kind of harsh.
Oh, and at that time we were recording the seminars.
And we went back to the room later and I played it back, and it was in no way harsh. It was kind. There was no tone in his voice. Who was in the room influenced how I heard it. So when I heard it back on the recording, it was so stunning that it was a kind interaction. So just putting that out there as a possibility that sometimes when Nico hears you being in her reality unkind, what if she's in an upset? What if she's been playing with a kid at school who's fighting with her dad? What if there's something other than you need to adjust the way you're speaking?
See, I think you can be authentically you without being in any way offensive. And like, it's really easy for a 8-year-old to say to her father, who's reprimanding her for something that she's done that jeopardizes her safety, perhaps, oh, you're mean to me. Well, that's not fair. But if you let a kid control you, then you don't do them any service at all.
So there's a balance for sure.
Yeah, you got to really look and see what the truth is from your experience, not necessarily from hers.
I mean, I do think it's important that you listen to her experience, but that doesn't always mean you need to adjust your delivery. Sometimes it does, but sometimes she'll say something to me nowadays, and I'm definitely trained myself or have become aware of. If I think he's saying something sharp, it may be true, but it also may be that he's piercing an already ongoing upset, in which case anything comes in as sharp. The entire universe comes in as sharp to me.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Sound in general.
if Nico is upset about something, anything you say to her is potentially upsetting.
And if she is upset about something, yeah, the whole thing is going to.
And by the way, most kids, most of the time, are upset.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's an 8-year-old, so it's her.
But
Or default.
most adults, most
Yeah.
They're just a little more sophisticated in their expression.
We had I just was flashing on a really sweet moment when we were flying out here to Wisconsin, and Nico is, she's she's interested in everything, but she's also into her games and her books and whatever. So I'm always pointing out things, and half the time she looks like after it's gone or something. But when we were landing, I had the window seat, and she just suddenly got interested in looking out the window, and was just loosening her seatbelt and crawling on my lap to look out with me, and we're watching flying over the Mississippi River, and it just was really sweet.
That is sweet. Maybe next time you'll trade seats with her, because you can lean over more effectively than her.
That's a good idea.
Hey, thanks for zooming in with us today. It's been a treat being with you.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. Great to be with you.
Hey, it's time for the listener feedback spotlight.
It's where we get to hear from people in this amazing listenership and transformation community talking about what's happening in their lives.
This is Harold in Manhattan, New York City. And transformation has really been a transforming experience for me. I mean, it has made my life so simple, so easy to get along, to be well within myself. One of the other powerful tools I've gotten out of transformation is listening. And it's amazing how to be present, to listen, and to listen to someone not from your point of view, but from their point of view, whether you agree or disagree. And it always amazes me how, when I do that, how people react and how well they feel. But it's something that, I have really benefited from. I've had a physical challenge in my life, and, I'm still going through the process, but it's been so helpful and has made a difference in how I go about my life and the challenge that I have. And, it gives you that sometimes I'm lost for words for it, but it's just a good feeling I get. And I got to say, I haven't experienced that in any other thing I've, done. So I'm on board. Transformation really makes a difference.
Do you want to have well-being with consistency? Connect with people all over the world from the comfort of your own home at Ariel and Shire's lively interactive Living Made Easy virtual seminars. Join any of their 2-hour online events or take a deep dive into the magic of being you at a virtual weekend seminar. Come on, let's connect. Find out more and register at transformationmadeeasy.com.
We have Living Made Easy 2-hour seminars, virtual seminars coming up next on August 21st. That's a Monday, and Saturday the 26th. I am very happy to announce that Susan Finch and I will be leading a Speak Up Day virtually on Saturday, September 23rd. And then we get to do another in-person course.
The Freedom to Breathe and the Art of Being a Healer We're doing that at a sleepaway camp, Camp Tecumseh, and that's October 20th, 21st, and 22nd. That's a Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday.
For all of the folks who would like to reclaim their sense of wonder, we're offering that in November on the 18th and 19th. And it's also bilingual, so we can include all of our German-speaking friends. Costa Rica 2024, it is not too late to sign up for that with us. The prerequisite is a weekend seminar. We are offering the courses for 1 or 2 weeks in January. You can find out about any and all of our seminars
At transformationmadeeasy.com.
Okay, let's have our next guest.
Let's.
Corinne, welcome to being here. Tell people where you're zooming in from today.
Hi, I'm zooming in from Long Branch, New Jersey, which is down here by the beach.
So can you see the beach from your place, or you're just like a block from it? Or
We're like across, well, you have to walk to the corner and then I can see the ocean down there, but I cannot see it directly from my house.
well, that'll get you out and moving.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Well, welcome. What can we do for you?
So I was intrigued by this topic, and I definitely can see how communication gets stymied, if you will, when I have my phasers up. And it happened not that long ago, because I've been dealing with a situation where I haven't been able to walk for like 4 months. And when I went to the doctor about whenever, like over a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, and she said, well, the only thing that's going to really fix this is having surgery and replacing your hip. My immediate reaction was like, no. And I saw how I was able to ask her questions to understand why that was the answer. And as I listened to what her answers were, I started relaxing and then got on board with, yeah, this is what I need to do. And I want to do it as soon as possible. And I'm glad I did, because I now am post-surgery and I feel great, and it all worked out really well.
I love that you mentioned for everybody, Corinne, that your preferences, or when somebody says something you don't want to hear, there's that automatic no, because I often think people find that a failing rather than recognizing, okay, here's something that's not my preferences, and then allowing that to relax and seeing what comes next.
Yeah. And it was good because I was able to explain to her, like I said, because, one time I was told this and I did that. And she then explained to me the difference between a previous situation and the current situation. So I don't know, I just felt really taken care of in my communications with this doctor. And I'm really grateful just for the whole experience. That's the best thing I can say. So, and I really do love these. I love the seminars that I attend with you guys, and I love the whole concept of listening. Although I will tell you, it's funny, I'm more aware of listening when I say no, like, oh, let's hear what the person is saying. But I have a tendency to listen and agree too. And it's almost like in my mindset, oh, agreement is a good thing, disagreement is not. Yet you always say it's being able to hear what's coming in and not having that yes or no. Am I?
Well, you're going to have an automatic response. But if you bring awareness to it, if you just notice it, then you can see through that automatic response rather than to be run by it.
And I love that you're bringing this up and you're articulating it so well, Corinne, that most of the time you've thought, oh, agreement is fine and disagreement, I better relax. But
no is negative, you see, and yes is positive. And you want to be a positive person. You don't want to be a negative person.
Exactly.
I have found that in seminars where you get derailed the most is not when you say no, it's when you agree and your mind churns up an example that you want to make a point with and you hold on to it. And then what happens is that the conversation goes on, and then you step in with your example and it's out of sync. Whereas today, clearly your example is in sync. So there's something, and I don't feel like today your example was born out of agreeing and wanting to make an example. There's something where you hold on to your point of view, or you're trying to prove yourself. And when that happens, you're virtually always out of sync. So I have a feeling, we're talking about beam me up, that you can't if you have your defended shields up. But I think the flip side of the defended shields are proving something, where you're proving your okayness to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes from the idea that you're not okay.
I can see that.
You see that? It comes from the idea that you have to defend yourself because you might have to give up your point of view, where it's not a problem to give up your point of view. It's not a failing to give up your point of view. Giving up your point of view is to accept another point of view. And what if there are no better points of view, just different? And you're not wrong if somebody has a different point of view.
We used to do that in seminars. Would grab a bottle or something. So here I'm holding up a Kleenex box, and from your point of view, you could probably see the motif on the side. But from my point of view, I'm seeing the word Kleenex. So if I say, no, it says Kleenex, and you say, no, it doesn't, your point of view is not wrong. You're just sitting from a different angle.
Right. That's true. Yeah. And I know what you're talking about. I do hold certain truths to be my own personal truth. Like, oh, this is very significant and I must bring it up. And it's cool that you're bringing this up.
But you have significant truths, to use your words. Let's say you have those always, but the drive to bring them up is something different. Because, as we're doing this podcast here, there are times when Shia is talking and I have a point that got queued up. And then I can let that go to listen to him. And some of them floated back to be brought up, and other ones floated away, and I have no idea what they were. I'm not holding a tendril of it.
If you hold on to that point of view that point you want to make, you stop listening, and the moment moves on, and you're not in it anymore. You're back where you were, holding on to what you want to say as though it's important, but life has moved on, and it may not have any relevance to where we are in this moment.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I really see it in terms also of trusting yourself, Corinne. Like, as you listened to that doctor and you relaxed and you heard what she had to say, you could trust yourself to come up with the correct option for you. And sometimes we don't trust ourselves when we're upset.
That's the thing. When you're upset, you don't trust yourself. But when you are here in the current moment, you are trustworthy.
People actually get lost worried about making a mistake. You cannot make a mistake. You can only live your life.
That's cool. Yeah.
And when you try to do it right through some system of seeing life rather than looking directly at what's right in front of you, you will always make mistakes. Because life doesn't show up within your system, it shows up the way it does. And if your system of relating demands that you do or don't do certain things, you won't be appropriate to your life currently.
Yeah. True.
Looks like you did the right thing.
Oh, I definitely did the right thing. Yeah, I'm so grateful. It all worked out perfectly.
I just flashed on a conversation we had with you during one of our weekend seminars. You know, your son's getting married, and about how you were operating, you know, being the mom, and how you heard what people had to say, that you could relax, that you didn't have to help them get dressed, or, you know, like there was something about your ability to listen has exponentially shifted, Kareen. It's just so pleasurable being with you today, really.
Oh, that's great. I'm so happy to hear that. And yes, I definitely had you're right, like a mom thing, like this is the way we do it, and I need to teach or be there. And now I appreciate that he and his fiance are taking over, and they're running with what they want, and it's perfect. And I'm grateful for that, because I learned that here, and we have a
takes a
great
lot of
relationship.
Pressure off of you to try to get your universe to turn out the way you think it ought to.
Yeah,
See, that's the problem. Most of us are trying to manipulate the circumstances to get them to turn out so we feel better,
yes,
rather than allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling and let our circumstances show up to reflect that.
yes,
Excellent.
yeah.
Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Yes.
Really a treat.
It's really so much fun. And I'm sitting up in a chair for the first time in like months. So it feels great.
Awesome.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, did you enjoy this podcast? If so, you can leave a review on your favorite podcast app. It helps other people find being here. And if you feel to, thanks in advance. Ready for next week's podcast?
I am.
If you don't ask,
The answer is always no.
We'll be back next week.
So come on back
And don't miss
being here.